Next up we have Senevirathne K and Gopura S from the Faculty of Engineering, Textile and Apparel Engineering Department. The topic of this study is Nature as a Creative Mentor, How Sri Lankan Fashion Designers Embrace Biomimicry. The podium is yours.
I'm talking about nature as a creative mentor, and you must be thinking what is going on with the word biomimicry. So biomimicry is definitely something we have already used since to survive from the extinction and to go with the natural selection. That is simply acting as nature. So this is the content of my slideshow I'm going on with. And looking through my research gap, I saw that fashion industry is growing in a very dynamic field right now, and it has intensely prone into working with the circularity, sustainability, and regenerative design. Biomimicry offers a very creative approach to work on with, and Sri Lankan fashion industry as a manufacturing hub for the world. So where are we? Where are we there? When the whole world is moving on with biomaterials and working with the biodesign concepts. So moving on with my aims and objectives, I want to see what is the investigation into the future fashion of the industry, as well as the exploring the innovative methods that have been used, that have kind of used, and what will be used in the future, and identify biomimicry applications, even the global context, as well as in the Sri Lankan context, and setting light into more into recommendations. What are we supposed to do as to keep up with the rapid growth with the industry? So looking forward with my literature, so I found that it is a practice of nature. It's a mimicking practice, and it's imitating the world of nature. So looking forward with the terminology, getting you familiarized with it. So bionics is using biology as a method of technology and science, and biomimetics we mean as imitating the nature as itself. And biomimicry is rather a very advanced approach using the design methodology of the line structure, philosophy, and even the systems to work on with and to fill a solution. It is a solution-driven process. And biodesign is using the phenomena of nature to create something inanimate. And biomaterials are a very interesting field right now, burgeoning up with the fashion industry right now. It is using the biological systems to create inanimate raw materials, rather say fabrics or some kind of whole garments itself. So, and that we're looking through the biomimicry design spiral, we are working on with first we start with the identification process, and then we translate what can be filtered into our design process and the observation, what is going to be taken further and developed. And abstraction, we can't use nature as itself. We can, but somehow to a point, imitate it, and the application, whether it be a garment or a fabric, and even a garment construction process and the evaluation of the process. So looking back at the literature in the global context, the environmental concerns are highly being highlighted through these biomimicry concepts, and the integration of biomimicry as a new material, generating raw materials, and the consumer demand, where people are prone to go to get the biological developed garments, as well as looking for the nature as a second way of, since this is a garment which is a second skin, how much closer these garments can get into us. So looking at the global context and what is the gap right now, to identify what kind of a gap we have right now. Right now the world is moving forward with protein using ciliums, algae, and we are using wax as into the fabrics and orange fabrics. We imitating the structure of orange fiber and the peel, and the second skin apparel using AI technology as well as the wearable technology, and mimicking the skin to work as a second skin, and fiber designs using animal fur to get a more sustainable and circular approach in fashion, using the nature to save the nature, I would rather say. So in my methodology, I started with studying the literature of the global context of biomimicry, and then what is the Sri Lankan designer's perception. To move forward with that, I have to go on with my questionnaire, and then work on with my interview process, filtered through that, and working on with that, you have to work on with my extraction process and the coding integration, and there was an analysis process between my questionnaire data and as well as my interview data. So there was some main themes. So I will further move on with the research. You will be able to find out those, and then work on with the cross-analysis with the deductive approach to work on with primary data and secondary data to come up with a conclusion to get out with the recommendations. So next, looking at the in my discussions process, so it was kind of interesting for me to go and ask from a fashion designer, what do you think about biomimicry? So their first approach was, what is biomimicry? I want to know what is that. But then I went and explained this is some kind of process like this. And then they worked on with saying, oh, this is something we have used, but we are not quite familiarized with the terms. So, and then what I want to see was what the major concerns, looking at the portions of the statistics, what there was, this should be something that should be embedded into the process if it's time efficient or if it's cost effective. So they were mainly raising on the cost effective fact, how are we gonna embed this process into this usual design process of fashion in export apparel industry as well as the retail apparel industry. So these are some of their quotes, because looking with that, they were kindly eager to work with that, and it wasn't a very novel concept for them, but it was something novel working in the industrial aspect if you're thinking as a competitive nature of fashion designing. And there was also something they highlighted with the gap between the biological knowledge as well as the garment manufacturing knowledge there. So working with there was a gap, they highlighted that. And so in my research, I want to see what are the different areas of the researchers. There was the retail apparel designers, and there was export apparel designers. Mainly Sri Lanka, we produce intimates as well as sportswears, mainly in the export apparel sectors. So their ideas were scattered around so many areas. So from those ideas, I was able to find and solidify 7 themes. So in my findings, theme 1, they reflected that biomimicry is an innovation. It's definitely an innovation to work on with. So it's an innovation coming from nature. It might be new to the garment, but it's never new. So the originality is somewhat we processed and we manipulated on. So they also concerned with the knowledge gap. So they might have a fashion design knowledge, working with the garments, the construction, the pattern technology. So how I'm going to bring the biology if I'm not familiarized with biological terms and biological phenomena and what is going on with inside animals, inside trees, inside human bodies. So in theme 3, biomimicry they always try to confirm that it is an energy efficient method, because the nature is created in a way that is going to be 100% energy efficient. So how are we going to bring that into even a garment or even the process of fashion designing and for the industry? And in theme 4, it's being challenged with the existing resource limitation. So maybe it will tackle the whole problem, or maybe sometimes it will come up with another problem to how are we going to source those materials, whether it be using a biological microorganism, a bacteria, or a mycelium, and then fungi. So in theme 5, what I found was quite contrasting some ideas, because they thought this word biomorphism, it is kind of using the visual aspect of nature and adding it to the garment. But biomimicry is using the whole phenomenon, the systems and the solutions, and to fill in that gap. So they had a bit contrasting ideas in my research pool, in my selected participants. So in theme 6, they were talking about the interesting, but it was not in practice. So it is interesting, something that could be in a garment, but in the current scenario with the time limitation and how it's going to be implicated into something that is going to be a commercially viable product. So with theme 7, it currently describes that at scale. How are we going to do this at scale? So we're not talking about 2-3 special kind of key garments or even an haute couture here in Sri Lankan manufacturing context. It's at scale. How are we going to do it? How are we going to take the risk factors? These were the main concerns of the designers. And in conclusion, they were quite well with the ideas. This is not a standard designing protocol, but it is something not new. This is what we can do. Even for a percentage, we would be able to implicate this biological knowledge to our garments and our process. And the knowledge base, they wanted to know the knowledge base, how to create that, and how to fill in those gaps and work on with the whole biological knowledge. And then the experimentations process, because the apparel industry uses so many methods of testing their garments and proving their validations. So if you're using something novel like biomimicry, if you're using a biologically infused fabric or biologically generated fabrics, how are we going to sell that? How are we going to make sure that this is going to work on with humans and this is going to stand against time? So the design philosophy is there, and the technical applications. So right now there's a need to fill this gap, to create more revenue. The technical gaps or even the knowledge can be, with the limitations, how it's going to work out, and providing the necessary knowledge and freedom, even time. I know this is kind of not the whole scenario with the whole work with the dynamic industry, fashion industry, with the rapid changes, but they might have an impact and innovation someday. Hopefully, very in the near future, for the revenue generation, since the whole world is going with circularity, the regeneration, and how it's going to work out. So those were the main areas and key conclusions I came up with my research. And thank you very much. And my final message is act as nature and make survival out of it, and be symbiotically linked with the deep ecology in ourselves and as well as our nature. Thank you.